Welcome to the Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva, and today we're going to get some insight into football at the college level. My guest today is Troy Jackson, and he's the founder of College Ready. And welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, no problem. So usually I start my guests where they went to college. So where'd you go to school?
I went to the University of Maryland at College Park.
Great,
Yes,
fantastic. So let's go back into high school. When did you start thinking about college and playing football at the college level in high school? Was it freshman year, senior year?
No.
How did it all start?
I started playing football when I was 9 years old at a league level in Williamsburg, Virginia. And from the time I started, I knew I wanted to be a professional football player. That was my goal, to be a professional football player. I was one of those kids that had a plan. So I knew if I wanted to be a professional football players come from being college football players. I knew I had to go to college.
Okay.
So that was it. So once I knew I had to go to college to go pro, with that being my goal, I started planning what it took for me to be eligible for a scholarship at the college level.
Gotcha.
And I started my own plan.
Great. So now, when in high school did that start?
I started my plan before high school. I was in probably the 7th grade. I knew, at that time that we needed a 2.0 and a 700 SAT. And I knew the classes that we needed to take roughly. I did the research, so I knew we needed 2 years of foreign language plus the algebras, the algebra 2s, and the geometries.
Okay.
So what I did was once I found out what I needed to do, I started in middle school. So once we started the process in middle school, you can take electives.
Yeah.
I took my first foreign language in the 8th grade, which was Latin.
Wow.
So I knocked out 1 year foreign language in middle school. And then what I did also in the 8th grade, I took algebra. So I knocked out a math in middle school. So once I got to the high school level, I was already on my way to being eligible for a scholarship.
Great. So now, when did you start well, let's go back into the school itself.
Okay.
Was the football team good enough where people started recognizing you, or did you have to go out and find the colleges?
No. Luckily for me, I played in the Peninsula District in Virginia, AAA level. So at that time in the mid to late 80s, and beyond, it was one of the top, if not the top football district in the state of Virginia. So we played the Hampton High Schools. We played the Bethel High Schools where Allen Iverson went. We played Warwick High where Michael Vick went. My high school is where Ron Springs and Lawrence Taylor went to high school. So we have a tradition of football in the area. So there are always eyes on us in that area. So it's just a matter of having your grades. You know what I mean? You got to have your grades.
Yeah.
Having your grades, and if you have the grades and you have the talent and ability, people will see you.
So when did that start happening? Was it sophomore year?
For
senior
me,
year?
I started getting noticed probably my sophomore year. I started receiving correspondence in the mail my junior year, my senior year. Every day there was multiple letters. There were multiple things from multiple colleges and universities throughout the country. So it by my senior year, it had mushroomed into something where we knew I was going somewhere. It was just a matter of which school I wanted to go to and which school wanted me.
Yeah. So now, how did that process begin? Was mom and dad involved?
It's interesting. My parents always let me lead the way in my future and my career, especially when it came to football. I was the one who was going to be out there toiling, so I made the decision. Of course, they guided me, in the right direction, but ultimately, it was my choice. So I chose the University of Maryland.
So now, how did that choice start? How did you even narrow it down to University of Maryland?
It was interestingly enough for myself, I wanted to be a big-time football player. Remember, my goal was to be a professional football player.
Mhm.
So out of all the schools that were recruiting me, Maryland was, big time program at the time. You got to remember, this is 1986, 1987. So Maryland was, flying high at that time. And I looked at it and I said, and two, I wanted to put my talent and ability against who I considered the best, because I felt like I was.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way to prove it is to go out there with those guys and to put your wares against theirs.
Right.
So that's why I chose the University of Maryland.
Fantastic. So the process with the coach, did they come to your house?
Yes. Coach Fasekas came to my house. It's interesting. I was recommended to him by another coach in the district whom we played against. I think that was Coach Mike Smith from Hampton High School. And my senior year, we happened to beat those guys. They were ranked number 10 in the nation. And we beat them, and I had a pretty good game. And we had been playing against them, of course, since my freshman year, so it was a process. And those were wars, So you played year after year after year, so by the time you get to your third and fourth year, you guys know each other, So he recommended to the University of Maryland that they come and take a look at me, and those guys came up, and, long story short, I ended up getting a scholarship from them.
Right, great. So now you're at University of Maryland.
Yes.
What's the process of football? What's the practices like? What's the games like?
The process of football at the college level, especially at the big-time college level, is a business. Everything revolves around football. And sometimes, unfortunately, even your classes revolve around football. Your class schedule revolves around the practice schedule. You can't have classes during practice if you're going to be successful, if you're going to play. You can't miss time. Football, it was an interesting learning process, because once you get there and we had a banquet or whatnot, and we eat with our parents, and they tell you, say your goodbyes, because we're headed over to the infirmary to get physicals, and then we're going to practice, and that was it. So it was a process. It happened pretty quickly. You have to get used to it. You have to hit the ground running, because if you don't, you will be run over.
So now, what's the process of the practices? How intense are they?
Well, it's interesting. They bring in the freshmen about a week or so early. So at least when I went to school, they brought in the freshmen about a week or so early. So the freshmen practice together for a week. And you always hear about, when you change levels, how the speed changes. I noticed that when we were doing exercises. We would practice as freshmen for that first week, We would do exercises, and we would have a clap where, you have the exercise, jumping jacks, 2 clap, and you do your jumping jacks. Well, we'd do that for a week. Week later, the upperclassmen come in. Now we're doing the same exercises, right? Now those guys are leading. You're doing your jumping jacks on 2 clap. Claps are faster. So if the claps are faster, the practices are faster, the guys are faster. Everything is magnified. The intensity is magnified. The speed is magnified. The sizes of the guys you play against is magnified. The demands on you are magnified tremendously. And you have to be able to manage your time. You have to be able to study, because your time is taken up. You have your breakfast in the morning, you go to classes after that, you go to lunch after that, you go to meetings after that, you work out after that, you practice after that, you go to dinner after that, you go to study hall after that, and after study hall, the time is yours. Unfortunately, it's about 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night, and we have to do it all again tomorrow.
Wow.
And that's what college sports is like.
So now you get to Saturday, and what is Saturday like when at the college level?
Now, so at the college level, you hear where guys get redshirted, and they say, oh, you have a year to get redshirted. The only thing you don't do when you get redshirted is play. You do everything else. You don't get to miss practice, to go study and they show you how to be a college student. No, you do everything else. You just don't play in games. So, it's not uh, that big a deal or that big a difference between being redshirted and not being redshirted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what happens in Saturday?
So on Saturday, if you travel, and this is the way we did it, if you were on a travel team and it was a home game, we would stay at a hotel Friday night, the night before. They would get you away from the campus atmosphere. Guys who weren't on a travel team would stay in their dorm rooms, and then Saturday morning we would all meet over at the team facility to get ready for the game.
Wow.
So, you get ready for the game, you get in there early, you have a team breakfast, you get into the facility, you get taped up, you get your ankles taped, you get everything taped up, massages or whatnot, what you're going to get before the game. You have meetings with your position, have positional meetings the night before in the hotel. You go over everything, first team, second team, third team. If we're doing kickoffs, we're going to go over the personnel, first and second, So they'll call a position, and you call your name out to let them know that you're supposed to be on the field. So by the time we get to a game situation, everything is covered, So you can't say, I didn't know.
So now you get the senior year of college.
Yes.
So what's happening, and how did you get from there to college ready that you started?
My senior year of college was difficult, personally. I had actually gotten to the point, I started my junior year as a running back at the University of Maryland. I started my senior year as running back at the University of Maryland. My junior year, we went to a bowl game that we tied. But everything was going according to plan. And funny thing happened. I didn't want to be a professional football player anymore. You understand what I'm saying?
Sure.
And that happens in life. I mean, life is about, going directions and changing. As you grow, you change. I grew and I changed. And when I got to the end of that journey, I was like, wow, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm tired. I'm beat up. I'm aching. I've seen behind the curtain of big-time college sports, and I really was turned off by it. And I got away from it for a long time. The way I came up with College Ready was I got into the school system once I had kids. I was trying to figure out a way, how can I keep my eyes on my kids during the day?
Mm-hmm.
I can become a substitute teacher. And I started in the school system, subbing. I joined child study team for a school in Riverton, New Jersey. And as I'm in the schools, I see kids, I see parents who aren't even thinking about going to college, aren't even thinking about putting money away for school. And I said, I need to start talking to these families at an early age as possible, because the price is astronomical. No matter when you start saving, you won't have enough money. I talked to athletes and families about getting scholarships. The vast majority of college athletes don't get full rides. You're going to have to make it up, So you guys still, even if you are an athlete, even if you're a good athlete or even a great athlete, you may not get a full ride. So we need to be able to figure out how to finance those monies that you're going to have to find as a family.
So now, what does College Ready do? What are some of the projects that you get involved in?
Well, right now, the next thing that we have coming up is a money management for youth and families class. That's in Williamsburg, Virginia, at New Zion Baptist Church on Saturday. So that's one of the things. We go out into the community and we try to teach students and families the skills that they're going to need, not only to get into college, but to be successful when they're there. So we do a money management class. We do a study skills class. We do a time management class. We do an introduction to college class, which is for those kids who are going on to college who may be freshmen. So we give them the ins and outs of what to do when you get to campus, how to conduct yourself, how to interact with your professors. Introduce yourself early. Let them know you're there. Let them know you're interested in the class and you're interested in passing the class. Don't let the first time your professor see you be when you come in looking for a point or two.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're less apt
Yeah.
to give it to you. So yeah, we talk about all those things.
Great. So, how does a student get involved in College Ready? Do they have to come and contact you, or do you find them?
Well, what we're doing now is in Virginia, we are starting to work with the Newport News school systems down there. We're doing some things out in Pittsburgh with after-school programs with youth places starting in the fall. So right now, that's where we're concentrated. They can contact us. They can go to our website, collegeready.tips, and contact us through the website.
Great, fantastic. So now, let's go into just a few more things in college. A lot of parents out there talk about it's sports, it's only sports. There's no time for studies and things of that sort. But you said something that I've had other athletes on that said it's all time management.
Yes, sir.
So, what is the balance that the student has to give? Is it the student going to the coach and saying, "Hey, I need this time to study," or is it the coach telling the kid, "Hey, you can't do any of that. I need you to play"? How does it all work?
The kid doesn't go to the coach and say, I need time to study. Practice is practice. Meetings are meetings. Either you're going to be there or you're not. It is incumbent upon the student athlete to fill their idle time with study time. If you have a down window where you have 4 hours, pick up a book for an hour and read. Go over the notes that you took in class. That's what time management is. You have to fill that free time with studying, and that's what's going to get you through. But if you take that idle time and you use it for video games or whatnot, then what's going to happen is you're not going to get your studying in. You're not going to have that time at the end of the day to devote to all the studying that you need to do. Whenever you have a free time throughout the day, if you have an hour between class, study. If you have a couple of hours of downtime between class and practice, pick up a book, go over your notes. That's how you become a successful student.
So there is time then to actually pass the classes.
Oh yes, definitely. It's all a matter of being efficient with your time, learning how to take advantage of your time. You can't miss a window. You can miss a window to study. You can miss a window to go over notes, but that will show in your grades.
Now, there have been some college coaches that have come on and said that there's allocated study time that they give to the teams.
Yes.
Do they do that as well?
Yeah. Oh, there are study halls, definitely. If when I was in school, if your GPA was below a 2.5, it was mandatory that you did some study hall time. So depending on your GPA was dependent on the hours of study hall that you put in.
Gotcha.
So there's definitely study hall time set up that the teams put aside. A couple hours here before practice, a couple hours, after dinner in the evening. But that's not enough time to be a successful student. You can be a C student doing that, but if you want to be a B and an A student, you have to put in much more time on your own.
Now, there's been things out in the news lately that some of the schools give you the classes that you should be taking when you're there, or is it up to the student to pick the classes that they want?
Like any student, you're going to have electives. So it's up to that student to pick the electives that they want. But for your major, whatever that may be, of course, there are core courses that you have to take and pass. So your electives are your electives.
Gotcha. So the school is just giving you the time of elective, so then you can go to the practices and so on and so forth.
Exactly. And of course, at a college, classes are given throughout the day. So you can take classes at times that make you able to get to practice on time or practice in general. The problem comes in as you get further into your academic career in college. Those classes are only given maybe, once a week, at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
You know, practice is at 4 o'clock.
Then there's
Now
then
that's where your
conflict
conflict comes in.
Yeah.
That's where your conflict comes
So
in.
how do you fix that with the coach? How does
well,
that work?
Well, pretty much what I found, a lot of times you'll find a major that is taken by a lot of athletes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it corresponds well with a practice schedule.
Gotcha.
You know, so but what happens with guys who are more serious? Let's say you have an athlete who wants to be a doctor.
Right.
You know, how bad do you want to be a doctor? Do you want to be a doctor more than you want to be a football player?
Mm-hmm.
There comes a time sometimes when you have to make a choice.
Gotcha.
You know, what do you choose? What I found is in college, a lot of guys choose football or that sport over that academic class simply because when you're dealing with a college athlete, this has been his path for a long time.
Yeah.
Like I was. He's about to achieve what he's been, you know, reaching and striving for.
Right.
Now, if I have to miss practice, right, my senior year for this class, I'm not going to be able to start. I can't be the quarterback.
Right.
Right? I can't run the offense.
Right.
So now what do? Right?
Interesting.
So for a lot of guys, it comes to that.
Well, and one of the other questions that parents always came up with is that the scholarships, people think, is for full 4 years. Some schools do it, some schools don't.
1 year renewable.
It's year after year.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone better than you comes along and they don't need you or you get hurt somehow, I guess that scholarship isn't actually there.
1 year renewable. You don't hear a lot about, you know, kid scholarships not being renewed. I think you have to do something, you know, drastic for your scholarship not to be renewed. But there is a chance for it not to be there, yes. So you have to know all your options, know and read the fine print. You know, I have a niece who's tremendous track athlete, 10th grade, you know, and but she has a 4.3 GPA.
Wow.
She wants to run in college for a certain school on an athletic scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
And I told her to take an academic scholarship. Control your own future. Don't let them control your future.
Yeah, so if it's academic scholarships, unless you do poorly in your grades, they really can't take it away from you.
You're in school, yes. Yeah.
So,
and you know, for some athletes who have high GPAs, I say that, you know, you can take an academic scholarship if you qualify at that same school and walk on to the team. Seriously. If you're that good, they're not going to turn you away.
And do you see a lot of people do a lot of walk-on?
Yes. There are a lot of walk-ons in college. A lot of walk-ons in college. If not for walk-ons, you probably couldn't have football programs because you just need so many bodies. And there's so many guys who are still trying to live their dream. They're trying to be athletes. Even if they didn't get a scholarship, you know, they're in college, they still can come out for the football team and play.
And there's a practice team as well as the actual football team that's playing on Saturday.
There's a scout team, which generally are the guys who aren't on the first team or the second team.
Gotcha.
So the guys who aren't on first or second team offense, for instance, will be the scout team for the first team and the second team defense.
Gotcha.
So they will run the other team, the upcoming opponent's offense.
Gotcha.
And vice versa for the defense.
So if by miracle you do really, really well, they start to see you and start to recognize you, and then you move up in the rankings, I guess.
Yeah, it works that way sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, you pretty much know who guys are when you recruit them and you bring them in.
Yeah.
That
happens rarely.
You have holes to fill.
Yeah.
So some guys are good enough to come right in and contribute to the team, but more often than not, you need time.
Yeah.
Especially with football. You know, those are big guys.
So we're coming to the end of our show. And usually I ask my guests, what advice do you want to give to families that their sons and daughters want to go to college? Sons want to play football at the college level. Maybe even daughters want to play at the college level. What advice do you want to give to them?
Grades. Grades. The better your grades are, the more options you have. Also, colleges are looking for the athlete who has good character, who has good grades, good in the community, because you're representing the college or university. So when you take a scholarship or when you attend a college or university, you are representing that college and university. So these guys are looking for not only the top athletes, but they're looking for top flight character students to represent them.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So you've been watching The Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva. Until next time.